I'm a beta. My biggest dream in life is pretty simple: marry a decent-looking wife and have a kid. Until an alpha locked me up for 3 whole days and nights. To this day, I still don't understand how things ended up like this. I mean, I'm just a hardworking beta who covered a shift for a coworker, saving up money so I could one day get married. How did I end up getting slept with? And in such a rough way, too. When I sat up, every inch of my body hurt like it didn't even belong to me. The culprit was sitting on the bed, staring at me with an annoyed look. I had to admit, he was a top-tier alpha, sharp eyes, clean features, the kind of guy who'd turn heads walking down the street. And on that handsome face of his was written one clear message: disgust. He spoke in this lofty, aristocratic tone. Last night was my heat cycle. I wasn't conscious. Sorry. If you need compensation, I'll do my best to meet it. Then he picked up a pen and coolly wrote me a check. If it's not enough, just contact my assistant later. I'd held myself back until then, but finally I stood up, smiled, then punched him square in the face. He looked stunned, like no one had ever hit him before. I yanked the check out of his hand, limping my way out of the presidential suite. Then I found an empty corner and stared at the check for a long, long time. Everyone says Sawyer is the softest pushover around, gets hit and still calls people brother with a silly grin. They're right. Because even after getting taken advantage of, the wildest thing I did was just punch him once. Before my dad passed away, he always told me, don't stir up trouble. When you're out in the world, keep your head down. Swallow whatever you must. Our family can't afford to fight. My thoughts were a tangled mess. After a while I told myself, so what, I just got slept with. I'm a grown man. Am I supposed to cry and throw a fit? Besides, he paid a ridiculous amount of money. 3 days earned me more than I make in 3 years. With this money, I can finally get married. It'd make my mom happy too. Everything works out. Everyone benefits. So what does it matter how I feel? 2. I filed for vacation with the house manager, then bought some alcohol at a convenience store on my way home. Back home, I soaked in the bathtub until my skin turned pale, desperate to wash off every trace of that man. I quietly got dressed and poured myself a drink. After a few glasses, I watched a movie and fell asleep. Sometimes I hate how calm I am. Even when I want to vent, I can't even manage to vent properly. I lay in bed for a whole day, half feverish, drifting in and out of sleep. But I wasn't getting better. With the last bit of strength I had, I took a cab to the hospital. The doctor asked me without much expression, "What's the problem?" "Fever." "Go get a blood test. Let's see what's causing it." I didn't want to waste money. I already knew what the fever was from. But the words stuck in my throat, too embarrassing to say. The doctor looked impatient. "Well? Why are you just standing there?" I'd finally gathered the courage to answer when a voice behind me, one that felt like a nightmare, cut in. "His private injury probably got infected. Could be the pheromones too." The doctor nodded knowingly, even gave me a curious look, then wrote a prescription. My face burned red. The culprit, meanwhile, looked perfectly calm. He picked up the medicine, placed it in my hand, and said, "Use it on time. An infection won't heal easily. If looks could kill, he'd have died 1,800 times under my glare." But I didn't dare curse him out, because I'd searched him up online. Preston. The young master of a major conglomerate. News articles call him the most likely successor. In short, way too powerful for someone like me to offend. I took the medicine, gritting my teeth as I said, "Thank you." He stared at me quietly, like he was trying to figure something out. A pretty Omega walked up to him and called his name. He answered with a gentle smile, every movement elegant and refined. Nothing like the out-of-control beast from that night. I couldn't help but tremble. He lifted the corner of his lips and slowly read the name on my medical chart. Sawyer. The Omega clung to him, and I practically ran out of there. 3. After I recovered, I decided to go home for a visit. My hometown is far, and the bus ticket alone costs $200. Usually, I only go back during New Year's since that's the only time I can afford it. But today, I decided to splurge a little. Honestly, it's pathetic. Ever since I graduated college, I've been stuck barely making ends meet. Sending home $1,000 each month is already the best I can do. When I got home, I saw my mom waiting at the entrance of the village from far away. She had a few more strands of white in her hair, but when she saw me, her smile was the brightest thing in the world. She took the bags from my hands and excitedly started telling me all the big and small things happening in the village. How the wheat harvest might be rough this year because of the bad rain. Whose son just got married, who's getting divorced again. Ever since my dad passed, I know she's been lonely, but there's nothing I can do. I can't move back here to keep her company, and I can't afford to bring her to the city either. So all I can do is smile and respond while she talks. When we got home, I unpacked everything I brought for her. This is a massager. Your back's been hurting, you can use this more often. And here's some goji berries. Put some in your water every day, it's good for your health. And some clothes, see if you like them. If not, I'll go exchange them. My mom looked at me and asked carefully. Sawyer, where did you get all this money? I remembered the scene where that man handed me the check with that arrogant look. Shame hit me so hard I couldn't look my mom in the eye. My boss gave me a bonus for working hard lately. She finally relaxed, went to change into her new clothes, then shyly asked me. How do I look, son? I had to force down the trembling in my voice as I told her. You look great. I've always been a useless son. Always. 4. After my vacation ended, I went back to the hotel and returned to work. Before leaving home, I promised my mom I'd bring her to the city within a year. I threw myself into work harder than ever, practically living at the hotel. Until Preston booked a long-term presidential suite, and requested me as his personal attendant. Too bad for him, I had already quit before he showed up. A shame, sure. Also a little cowardly. But I just couldn't bear seeing Preston again. I joined another hotel, not as good as the previous one in every way, but at least someone like Preston would never bother coming here. The pay was lower, but the work was easier, and I even had enough free time to take extra gigs. I was happily planning when I could finally bring my mom over, calculating my savings every day. Then I got a call from my village saying my mom had fainted. I rushed home immediately. My mom looked at me like a child who'd done something wrong. Sorry. I don't know what happened. I just blacked out. I'm fine, go back to work. Your job is important. My eyes stung, and I insisted on taking her to the best hospital in the city for a full checkup. Brain tumor. The good news, it was benign. The bad news, it was large and pressing on her nerves. She could faint again anytime, and might never wake up. The only option was surgery. Expensive surgery. With uncertain results. I sat alone outside the hospital. The noon sun was so bright it felt dizzying. For the first time in years, I questioned fate. Why? Why, when I've never done anything wrong? Why can't I even have a simple, ordinary life? I buried my face into my knees, letting the tears fall, hating myself for being so powerless. Then a pair of shoes appeared before me. I looked up to see a man. His eyes looked just like Preston's, but the smile on his face was anything but kind. So you're Sawyer, the beta who made my brother lose face. How about we make a deal? The deal was simple, he'd cover all of my mom's future medical expenses. And I would stay by Preston's side for 3 years and gather information for him. I agreed, because I had no other choice. The man grinned and offered his hand. My name is Nixon. Looking forward to working with you. 5. That day Nixon brought me to a private club. Everyone there was dressed elegantly, radiating money and privilege. And then there was me, wearing a plaid shirt and glasses, completely out of place. Nixon patted my shoulder lightly and murmured in my ear. "From here on, it's up to you. Let's see if you can charm my dear brother." I followed a group of beautifully done-up Omegas into a private room. They each went straight to the people they knew, leaving me standing there stiffly like a misplaced chess piece. A few rich boys lounging on the couch looked me over with amusement. "What, is this the style these days? Looks pretty average to me, not sure what tricks he's supposed to pull." Their laughter made my skin crawl, humiliation rising like a tide. Then a blonde alpha walked toward me, grabbing my chin. Interesting, very interesting. Something about him felt wrong, cold, predatory, like a snake. Goosebumps shot up over my whole body. And without warning, he leaned in and tried to kiss me. My mind lagged behind, but my hand didn't. Slap. The sound cracked through the room, and everything went silent. He stared at me coldly, like he was looking at a dead man. "Tough, aren't you? Let's see if you can still smile later." A beta like me had no chance against an angry alpha. He grabbed my wrist and started dragging me away. In desperation, I bit down on his hand as hard as I could, then bolted straight toward Preston. I fell to my knees at his feet, begging. "Please, help me." Preston lounged lazily on the sofa, barely lifting his eyes. "And who exactly do you think you are?" He swirled his drink, not even looking in my direction. The blonde alpha scoffed. "You think he'd care about some low-ranking beta like you?" He reached for me again, so I shut my eyes, took a leap of faith, and pressed a kiss to Preston's lips. "I can make you feel good." Preston studied me with a half-smile. To him, I must have looked pathetic, pale, messy hair, shaking. Why would he ever want someone like me? Just when I was ready to give up, he suddenly said, "I'll take him." His long, clean fingers rested on the back of my neck, forcing me to follow him. We walked through a quiet hallway and entered a room at the end. The door slammed shut behind us, and my heart jumped like a coward. Preston sat on the bed, raised an eyebrow, and asked, "So, how exactly are you going to make me feel good?" The memories from those 3 days flashed back, and my legs nearly gave out. I looked at him, took a shaky breath, and began unbuttoning my shirt, except the more nervous I got, the more I couldn't get that stupid button undone. Preston suddenly laughed and stood up, walking toward me. He was so much taller than me that his shadow covered me completely, and his scent, warm, subtle wood, filled the air. I kept my head down, not even daring to meet his eyes, still fumbling hopelessly with that button. Then his hand closed around mine, firm and unyielding, guiding it downward. "This," he said, "is the part that actually feels good." My face lit up like it was on fire. My first instinct was to snatch my hand back, but he held it too tightly. I nearly burst into tears from sheer panic. Preston pinched my chin, his smile slowly fading. "Sawyer, you've already come this far. Don't pretend to be innocent. If you want to leave, leave. I won't stop you." He stood there, relaxed, watching me the way someone watches a trapped little animal scrambling around. My mom's careful, tired face flashed into my mind. I never had a choice, did I? That stubborn button finally tore off. I rose on my toes and pressed frantic, messy kisses along his neck and ear. "I'm not leaving. I'll make you feel good." He stood still, arms loose at his sides, letting me kiss him without moving at all. I didn't know what I was doing, and desperation made my eyes sting. Then Preston laughed softly. He lowered his gaze, eyes dark, and suddenly swept me up by the waist. He pressed a trail of warm kisses along my skin, murmuring against my ear, "Watch and learn. This is how it actually feels good." I lay on the bed, losing myself inch by inch under his touch. Preston was a liar. Because later, none of it felt good at all. I cried and begged him to stop. He laughed, said he would, and then kept going anyway. This audio is originally produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. Please credit when sharing. 7. When I woke the next day, the sun was bright. Preston was sitting at the edge of the bed, calmly buttoning his shirt. He tossed me a phone. This phone has only my number saved. Don't mute it. No matter when I call, you come. I muttered under my breath. How am I supposed to keep my job like that? The next day, he simply bought the entire hotel. Turns out I became connected in the company in the most ridiculous way possible. Originally, I thought someone like Preston, rich, attractive, surrounded by admirers, would get bored of me quickly. A week or two of treating me like an employee? Fine. I could tolerate that. But no, he came looking for me constantly. When he was done, I finally understood just how much stamina an alpha could have. After a while, every time I saw Preston, my legs started trembling automatically. I tried rebelling once. I accidentally lost the phone on purpose, pretending it slipped. Half an hour later, Preston walked straight into the manager's office. The hotel manager practically bowed while delivering me to him. Preston stood behind him, hidden in the shadow, impossible to read. Standing there in front of that one-way mirror, watching my co-workers walk by, I bit my lips until they bled. After that, I never dared try anything again. But the more time I spent with him, the more I realized Preston wasn't as cold as he looked. He actually had a childish streak, and ironically, I majored in elementary education. So I started treating him like a difficult kid. When he asked if he was impressive, I'd say, super impressive. The most impressive guy in the world. When he asked if I felt good, I'd answer, yeah, feels great. My dad always said, kids from poor families learn early. Keep your words sweet, it keeps you alive. After so many years out in the world, I've long mastered the art of telling people what they want to hear. Little by little, Preston even started caring about my feelings. But still. Honestly, he was a complete menace. 8. 3 months later, I saw in the newspaper that Preston had shown up at a gala with an Omega on his arm. My heart soared. Finally, he had someone else to focus on. That night, I happily went grocery shopping and stocked up on hot pot ingredients and beer. I was ready to enjoy a peaceful night alone. Halfway through cooking, that cursed phone rang again. I fumbled with my hands and ended up hanging up by accident. When I called back, it said his phone was off. My stomach dropped. 5 minutes later, the doorbell rang. Preston stood outside, staring at me with dark, unreadable eyes. Brother, he said lowly, not behaving. I'm 5 years older than him. One time he heard a junior colleague call me brother. And that night, for reasons only he knew, he started calling me the same. He said it while asking if I felt good, all the way until midnight. Normally, when he called me brother, it meant he was in a very bad mood. I didn't even have time to panic before the hot pot boiled over in the kitchen. I rushed to turn off the stove. When I came back, I found Preston seriously inspecting my tiny apartment. Watering my plants on the windowsill as if he lived there. I live in an old residential block. The place is small, but I've filled it with little trinkets and warm touches. Wherever I go, I try to make the space feel like a home. Even if the apartment isn't mine, seeing my things fill the shelves makes me feel like I belong somewhere. I remember when I first came to this city, no job, no money. I made myself a tiny hiding spot under a bridge, and even that little nest was tidy and organized. Then I lived in a company dorm, moved a few more times. And finally ended up here, my first real sense of stability. I brought the hot pot out and glanced at Preston nervously. I made food, do you want some? I only meant it as polite small talk, but Preston actually took off his jacket and sat down. For some reason, the gloom he arrived with vanished the moment he stepped inside. That night, we finished the whole pot together and drank every beer in my fridge. Later, Preston got a little drunk and held me while he slept. It was one of the very few quiet nights we'd ever had. 9. He seemed to love my little apartment and kept pestering me for a key. I frowned, unwilling. To me, Preston was a boss. And work and personal life should stay separate. But then he suddenly went quiet, head lowered, saying nothing at all. He sat on my big black leather sofa, this massive, empty villa behind him. And for some reason, he looked lonely. Preston never talked about his parents, but I knew the current chairman's wife was his stepmother. Inside his wallet was a photo of a woman, gentle, beautiful, and looking very much like him. Sometimes he woke from nightmares, calling for Mom. Damn it. My heart softened. I tossed him the key, face stiff. Don't lose it. He stared at the key for a long time before leaning his forehead into my neck. I knew it. Brother's the best. I was mad at him. And mad at myself. Preston just laughed, nuzzling me like an overgrown puppy, kissing along my neck in tiny, greedy touches. Brother, I like you. I really like you. It was the first time he'd ever said something like that. I froze, then got drowned in his kisses. After that day, Preston rarely asked me to go to his villa. Most of the time, he just appeared at my place as if it were his own home. Sometimes when I went grocery shopping, he tagged along behind me. Wearing a simple hoodie, he looked like a college kid fresh out of school. The auntie at the vegetable stall gave me change and asked, "Got a guest staying with you?" I didn't know what to say, so I just replied, "Yeah, my cousin's visiting." Preston slipped a hand under my shirt while smiling politely at her. "Hello, ma'am." I gritted my teeth, grabbed his wandering hand, and shoved the groceries into his arms without changing my expression. He looked at me with a mischievous grin. Soon enough, Preston had become everyone's favorite at the market. A generous spender with a sweet mouth and a pretty face. Preston invaded my life in the most forceful way imaginable. The day my mom had surgery, he stayed with me outside her hospital room. On that first day together, I told him everything about Nixon. Preston wasn't stupid. Instead of walking a tightrope between two people, he decided to hold on to one leg firmly. Nixon had prepared for this, but he never expected Preston to act so fast. He ended up taking a huge loss. When the operating lights finally turned green, I walked over, legs trembling. A warm touch ran through my hand, Preston held it. The heat slowly climbed up my arm and settled in my chest, calming me a little. The surgery was a success. My mom just had to stay in the hospital for a few more days. During her stay, Preston called her auntie and kept her laughing, praising me for having such a good colleague. The night before my mom was discharged, Preston and I left the hospital. For some reason, he insisted we walk around outside. The moonlight was soft as water. Summer cicadas chirped endlessly. Preston held my hand tightly, our fingers interlocked, walking like a perfectly normal couple. For a moment, I felt disoriented. Then, I saw a familiar face. Something flashed in my mind, and my brain raced. It was one of Nixon's men. I'd seen him before. If Preston died and I had betrayed Nixon, there would be no good ending for me. My body reacted faster than my mind. I stepped in front of Preston. A knife sliced through the air, cutting slowly. Blood trickled down. From the shadows, the guards quickly restrained the attacker. Preston held me close, trembling. I didn't know if I was about to die, but I forced out the words. "Take care of my mom for me." For the first time, I saw Preston looking truly bewildered. His voice shook, yet every word was a threat. "Brother, if you die, your mom will be alone. I'll put her in a care home and let the staff bully her. You won't like that, will you?" I don't know if it was pain or anger that hit me, I just passed out. 11. When I woke up, Preston was sitting beside my bed, dark circles under his eyes. I tried to sit up, but the wound hurt too much, and I cried out. When I looked up, Preston's eyes were burning into mine. How can I even describe those eyes? So many complex emotions, and, frighteningly, I saw love in them. His voice was hoarse as he whispered, "Brother, don't leave me again, okay?" I stared at him, my head spinning for a moment, but I reassured him. "Okay. I promise I'll never leave you." Using this event as leverage, Preston wiped out Nixon and his entire network and forced the old chairman to step down, officially taking over the company. His mother had been driven to death by his father. Now Preston had finally avenged her. No matter how busy he was, every day during my hospital stay, Preston came to visit. He knew I liked sweets, so he brought me different desserts every day, watching me eat with a small smile. Sometimes I wondered, what exactly was between us? Originally, our arrangement was simple. He saved my mom, and I stayed by his side until he grew bored of me. So our relationship had business, desire, and maybe even a hint of friendship all mixed together. I couldn't figure it out, and I couldn't explain it. When Lance came to me, I barely hesitated before agreeing to his request. Lance was the Omega I'd seen in the paper, Preston's fiancé. "We're getting married." "How exactly are you supposed to stay by Preston's side? As a lover? Or something else? What do you think my mother would say if she found out?" When he stood there, his prideful tone mirrored Preston's exactly. He didn't even need to say so much. I was already planning to leave. My start with Preston had been a mess, a humiliation. Even if it was now coated with some warm, tender love, it couldn't erase what he'd done to me back then. I couldn't hate him, he saved my mom. But I couldn't love him either, our beginning was far too messy. Before leaving, I left all the money I'd earned over the years to Preston. It felt almost sentimental, like I could reclaim a little of my long-crushed pride, like our relationship wasn't just a simple arrangement anymore. My dad always said, life is about the inside, if that's gone, everything's gone. The night before I left, Preston held me tightly, over and over asking, "Brother, you won't leave me, right?" I panicked a little, but kept answering, "I won't leave you." The next day, I disappeared from Jiangqing along with my mom, using a car accident as cover. You're listening to Omegaverse Tales Studio, a YouTube channel dedicated to captivating short stories. Let's continue. Lance gave me a bunch of options, but I chose a small, economically underdeveloped village. Most of the people there were elderly or kids left behind. The village had a little, Hope Elementary School, but only one teacher. I had studied teaching on a government scholarship in college, but for various reasons, I never became a full-time teacher. Now, at least, it wasn't a complete waste. The villagers were simple and kind, life was slow and easy. The salary wasn't high, but everyone had farmland, and there was never a shortage of food. I cleared a plot of land to grow vegetables and fruits, and my mom helped me tend it. Being close to the earth, and being with her, I saw her health improve day by day. I loved the village kids. They were like raw gems, unpolished but full of surprises. The other teacher at the school, Bella, had only finished high school but was eager to learn and often asked me questions. Sometimes my mom would tease us. "I think Teacher Bella is nice. Why don't you give it a try?" For some reason, that always made me think of Preston. One day, Bella confessed her feelings to me, and I didn't answer right away. I didn't dislike her. I wondered if being with her could make my life feel normal again. Preston was already engaged to Lance, and I hadn't thought about him for a long time. Maybe I should give myself a chance at the future. That day, we went to town to buy stationery for the kids. At a small tea house, I was ready to tell her everything. Bella sat across from me, looking nervous. I took a deep breath and said, I used to be with an alpha. If you don't mind, maybe we could try." Bella froze for a moment. I smiled. "It's okay if you mind, I just don't want to lie to you." She blushed and scratched her head, saying, "Everyone has a past, Sawyer. I just want your future." She placed her hand in mine. I was about to hold it back when I looked up. Preston was there, watching me with that half-smile that always made me shiver. 13. My heart skipped a beat. Preston was walking toward me. He sat down beside me with an extremely forceful air, casually playing with my hair. "Brother, who's this?" he asked, his tone intimate. Bella looked at me, confused. Preston leaned close, whispering words only I could hear. "Brother, does she know how irresistible you are in bed?" I knew my face must have turned pale. Under the table, I grabbed his hand, silently begging him to stop. He looked at me quietly, a slow, deliberate smile spreading. "Brother, so you do know what fear feels like." Bella looked worried. "Sawyer, what's wrong?" I forced a smile and said, "He's a distant cousin. You should head back. I'll show him around town a bit more." Bella finally left. Preston dropped the smile, his expression dark as he grabbed my wrist and led me silently to a secluded spot. He pinned me against the wall, heat radiating from him, whispering in my ear. "Brother, you're not being good. You promised you'd never leave me. Naughty people have to be locked up, you know." I tried to calm him down, reason with him. "Preston, you said when you got tired of me, you'd let me go. You're engaged now. There's no future for us." His eyes were full of obsession and madness. His cold finger brushed my dry lips. "I won't believe you anymore." His hand moved down slowly as he mocked. "Does brother even still work?" Then he pressed an all-consuming kiss on me. I used the last of my rationality to hold him back, whispering hoarsely, "Not here, please." Preston looked deeply into my eyes, silent, then dragged me onto a car. Then onto a private plane. Everything felt surreal. I was back in my apartment in Jiangcheng. He looked at me, red-eyed, and asked, "Did you ever like me?" I stared at him, expressionless, and said word by word, "You forced me from the start. How could you expect me to love someone so strong?" Before I could finish, Preston covered my mouth, as if stopping me from speaking could erase it all. That night, he called me brother over and over, forcing me to respond each time. From night until morning. 14. After that day, I officially became Preston's lover, or maybe, kept companion, fits better. Preston wouldn't let me work, keeping me in a villa in the suburbs. He even hired a housekeeper for me. I didn't want one, but he insisted. Eventually, I realized he just wanted someone to keep an eye on me, and I let it happen. So after nearly 10 years of scraping by in the corporate world, I was now being taken care of. He used my mom to control me, occasionally letting me visit her. Preston had always been like this. His small acts of kindness made me think he was harmless, but I knew better. My mom seemed worried, asking, "Sawyer, what's going on?" I forced a smile and said, "My boss misses me, so he asked me to help him out here." I didn't know if she believed me, but I had no other choice. I was just a piece of meat on his chopping board. Preston even cleared a garden plot for me in the villa, but I had no energy to tend it. Even before, I could live happily in a tiny apartment. But now, faced with this huge villa, I had no passion left. My dad said life needed hope. Back then, my hope was a home, a family, a simple life. Now I was trapped in a massive villa like a bird with broken wings. Everything bored me. I sat in the courtyard all day, staring blankly. Preston brought me little gadgets and toys every day. I'd smile and thank him, but never pick them up again. Most of the time, we just sat quietly, saying nothing. Later, he introduced me to his friends. They smiled and greeted me, but their eyes were full of disdain. I sat in the room, feeling out of place among the rich heirs and the delicate Omegas alike. Most of the time, I pretended to enjoy the games, but inside, I felt completely out of place. Only when I was alone did I let go of the fake smile and stare at myself in the mirror, expressionless. "You don't seem very happy," a voice said. In the mirror appeared a young man I knew, Gavin, a painter. He had come so suddenly that I wasn't ready with a perfect smile. I hope it's not too sudden. You looked nice just now, so I drew you. On rough sketch paper, he had captured the scene of me looking into the mirror, a quiet weariness and faint despair. His art had a soul. I had once thought about studying art myself, but in the end, I had chosen the government teaching scholarship. In my life, I never really got to choose. You draw very well. If you're interested, you could try it too. He placed a brush in my hand. The feel of it on paper, familiar and comforting. I hesitated, then lightly traced over the sketch, shaping the shadows of buildings in the distance. Gavin praised my talent. His energy was different from anyone else's, so I couldn't stay cold toward him. Until Preston appeared silently in front of me, smiling warmly. Brother, let's go home. Gavin smiled at Preston and handed me a business card. If you're interested, you can work at my gallery. Preston took the card from me. We'll think about it. Then he grabbed my hand and walked me out, wordless. On the car ride, he suddenly kissed me, his voice soft and slightly hurt. Brother, you haven't smiled at me in so long. I forced a smile. He seemed even angrier and bit my lip hard. That's not the kind of smile I mean. I want the one that comes from your heart. Heartfelt smiles, how did those even feel? I couldn't remember. Preston's expression hardened, like a trapped beast. You're like a fake person right now. I looked at him calmly. Did I become this way, because of you? 16. This story is exclusively produced by the YouTube channel, Omegaverse Tales Studio. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe. A year after being trapped by Preston, my mom's health suddenly worsened. Before she left, she seemed to understand something, holding my hand with tears streaming down her face. My Sawyer, it's all my fault. I've caused you so much trouble. At that moment, I couldn't bring myself to lie to comfort her anymore. I just held her hand and quietly watched her go. After that day, the last support in my life was gone. I began losing sleep night after night. One day, I sat by the window, staring blankly. Preston returned and, shaking, lifted me down from the ledge. Brother, please don't scare me, okay? I didn't really want to die, I just couldn't tell reality from my thoughts anymore. After that, Preston agreed to let me work at Gavin's gallery. Through painting, I slowly found myself again. I lost myself in it completely. Gavin taught me techniques and said I was the best student he'd ever had, though my works were full of sadness. I didn't know what he told Preston, but one day he asked if I wanted to leave, and I agreed. On the day I left, a gaze fell on me from the balcony. I knew Preston was watching, just letting me go of his own will. We arrived at a small coastal village. I loved sitting by the sea at sunset, watching the sun sink slowly. The simple, natural beauty reminded me that life still had hope. Then I realized I kept feeling nauseous. At first, I didn't think it could be pregnancy. After all, a beta being pregnant seemed absurd. But as my belly grew, Gavin took me to the hospital and confirmed it, I was pregnant. Inside me was a life that fully belonged to me. For once, something in this world was mine alone. Back home, Gavin held my hand, looking at me gently. Sawyer, let's terminate the pregnancy. Just you and me. We can live a good life together. I firmly refused. He just said he would respect my choice and that he valued my talent, hoping we could continue working together. But in truth, he and Preston were the same type, people who easily controlled life and death. Anger surged through me. I slapped him hard. Preston said he loved me, you say you love me, but what I truly want, no one ever cared. What's the difference between you and Preston? He seemed flustered, trying to explain. No, it's just. I was too exhausted to listen. Go. I don't want to see you again. 17. A year later, I gave birth to a child. I had no expectations for him, only that he live a good, honest life. Fortunately, my art exhibition was a big success, so at least I could provide for him materially. Preston knew about the child, and I didn't forbid them from meeting. The feud between Preston and me shouldn't touch the child. During childbirth, I needed alpha comfort due to hormone injections, so Preston would come for a few days every so often. Just like the first time, he knew how to make someone feel calm. After each visit, he would ask if I loved him. I smiled and nodded. He would leave quietly. And then he would ask again, "Do you love me?" I looked at the man in front of me, smiling and nodding, yet my eyes held only coldness. Preston knew he would never earn my love, yet he persisted, asking over and over. Waiting for an answer that would never come.